Hey, what's up, guys? I am just sharing my link with a client. So give me 1 second. I'm going to share. Hold on, let me make sure I'm in the right place. Welcome to our live stream. Is this me now? Am I talking? Okay, got it. Let me go. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to send this to my community. Sounds like the live stream link isn't working. Here it is. Okay. Post now. All right. Yay. Awesome. All right, guys. I'm excited to get started here. If you can hear me talking again, I apologize for that too. So we'll let everyone kind of come on, jump on. I just got back from California. It's been a really, really rough week emotionally, which I will talk about today. And, when I jump on these live streams, I really think about like what is going to be the best thing for my audience. And most of the time, it's stuff that comes from clients, it is conversations that come from um, questions on social media. It might be questions that you guys put here in the community and in the channel. But today, I'm talking about something that is affecting me, but also I know affects so many of you. And I think that is something that we as women don't recognize as an energy suck, right? We tend to think that the only time that we should allow ourselves to rest is when we're physically exhausted. And I get that, and I absolutely understand why that is. We don't realize that there are actually 7 types of rest that our body needs. We only assume that physical rest is what we need. However, there are actually 7 types of rest that a person needs. And the ones that I'm going to be focusing on today are are mental and emotional. But I want to go through the 7 types of rest for you just so you know what they are. This actually comes from uh research on rest. So we're going to go over that today. We're also going to talk about like what can we do when this specific type of rest that we're talking about is depleted. So as always, welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection live stream. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and focus on what really matters, which includes your relationship with your body, food, self-worth, and the behaviors that align with all of those. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. At the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. All right. Welcome everybody. Okay, so I want to start off by helping you guys understand like what we're talking about today. And today really the conversation is not about food, it's not about exercise, it's about emotional and mental fatigue and how much emotional and mental fatigue can affect our bodies. And so for my clients, they might just be in a place where they've skipped their workouts, they ate like garbage a like maybe twice in the week or ordered out even though they had all of their meals planned. Their food was ready, but they still, decided I don't even want that. I want the DoorDash, right? And they may dread their workouts, everything feels a bit harder, decisions feel harder. And they'll actually look at it and be like, "What's wrong with me? Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm not exhausted. Like, my workout wasn't that hard." And they'll kind of bash themselves a little bit for being in this kind of rut, right? And for me, if you guys don't know, I had my uncle, who I'm actually named after, passed away on the Saturday before Father's Day, and my father-in-law passed away last night. And I drove I woke up at 4:30 in the morning yesterday, drove to California for my uncle's funeral, woke up at 4:30 this morning, drove back home, and dealing with obviously my husband's feelings and everything while he's in South Carolina with his family, trying to also, we are going to be going on a trip soon. And so it's a lot, right? And I was driving today and I was like, why am I so exhausted? Because while I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, I went to sleep at like 7:30 last night. I was just kind of drained. And I'm driving and that feeling where your eyes get so tired, you can't keep them open. And I'm like driving, so I've got to keep them open. And I'm just like, what is going on? What is going on? My brain was like, I don't want to do anything when I get home. I don't want to work. I got everything I needed to get done. But I'm curious, when you guys have felt that way, where you're slept, I slept well, I ate well yesterday. I didn't get as much movement in as I wanted to, which is actually a good thing. So you would think today I'd be energized, but I'm not, right? I'm not energized. And when I actually sat down to think about it, I thought about where my energy had been going. And so I realized, wow, I'm pretty depleted from emotional and mental energy. And I have the wherewithal around that, but a lot of us don't. We put energy into physical energy. But like I said before the intro, there's actually 7 types of like rest we need, meaning like these are energy outlets that we have in our lives. And the number one is physical, right? So you have um, physical energy that you exert from planned exercise, from non-exercise activity. You're just kind of moving and grooving all day. Even me talking with my hand that requires physical energy. The next is mental. Right. So if you are in calls all day, if you have appointments, if you're in school, that requires a lot of mental energy. Then we have emotional energy. Emotional energy, of course, is our how stressed we are in our lives. We may be grieving over something. We may feel like very angry. Maybe someone upset us. And depending on how often that is happening or how we're holding on to it, that can be really, really, it can cause a lot of fatigue, right? The other 4 we don't really talk about as much as spiritual energy, right? So feeling connected to something. Social energy actually is one that face to face. If you're in a business where you have to take people to dinner or wine, or like present to people, or you're just a really social person, that can drain your energy, right? Sensory energy. So that just sensory overload we have in our lives from social media to just the fast-paced lives that we live, we can get very tired from that. And then creative energy. So if we're someone who um, needs to be creative, we come up with product design, brands. For me, it's a lot of my social media, running this company. How can we be creative and things? So I wanted to kind of give you that understanding of like where your energy goes, because again, I think as most people, we just focus on physical. But today we are going to focus on, as I mentioned, the emotional and the mental energy and where it goes. So I want you guys to check into the chat. So this makes so much sense. These are the times where I'm so tired and I'm not physically tired, and it's not from physical activity. Yes, 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 yes. How can I do this? Show on stream. I don't know what that means. Oh, look at that. Ooh. That's a new thing we have here. So, Always Happy says, that makes so much sense. There are times I'm so tired and it's not from physical activity, but from draining my social and emotional battery. Yes. And so when we're thinking about fatigue, I want you guys to just check in with me right now. So you put this in the chat. I want you on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is like, I have all the energy, I have all the mental energy. 1 is, or 0 really is like, I am drained. Where are you guys at today? I'd say for me, surprisingly now, I have a little bit more energy. I did not allow myself to lay down. I did all my client check-ins when I got back, and I kinda just pulled myself up from my bootstraps, and I actually feel better about it. Um, my goal is to go to bed earlier tonight, but just let's check in. How's everyone doing here? As you're doing that, I wanna talk about the 2 energy, 2 that energy isn't just that one thing. So we treat energy like there's one gauge, 1 meter. I'm tired, I'm not tired, right? I'm physically tired, I'm not tired. And we don't think about, like Amber said, like, I always think it's physical activity, but how many decisions do you make before lunchtime, right? How many meetings did you sit in that you hated or you had to, like, hold face the whole time because maybe what was being discussed was BS to you, but you've gotta kinda, like, put a smile on, right? Um, how long have you had to pay attention to something, right? Some of you on here are in the medical field. When you're watching over a patient who might be, I don't know, in a dire position, you're gonna have to focus on that person. Or maybe it's just a patient who is kind of a pain in the ass, right? That takes mental energy. But also on top of that, maybe you have everything planned, right? You planned, you prioritized, you did your workout, and you're still like, I don't get it. Like, decisions are so hard for me right now. I just everything in my body wants me to resort back to my defaults, right? And and that resorting back to defaults is such a clear sign that something's off, especially for those of you who have really worked on some of these behavioral patterns that we work on here at the Mindset of Matter. When defaults of comfort food, of TikTok, that's mine, or alcohol, right? That's another one. Defaults of vegging on the couch, defaults of going to sleep, not, I mean, taking a nap, really. When those things start to creep up, that is an exact time I want you to check in and say, where am I in regards to my physical energy, but then also most important or as important, emotional and mental energy. So we have a 3 out of 10. So uh in the danger zone, right? And then we have a 6 to 7 out of 10. And it's what I want you to think about is where has my energy gone? So some of those things that I talked about. So you can look at how many decisions I've made in the day, how pulled I am in different places, what I might be going through emotionally, even just driving like that. I had to pay attention to the road for 5 hours. And it was kind of funny, you guys, because I'm like, I like driving, but it just my brain was like, "I'm tired of paying attention to this road," you know? And because of it, I became physically exhausted as well. So, when we're starting to feel those defaults or those pulls to things that keep us comfortable, that's a good indication that obviously something is off in our bodies. Um, as a therapist and as someone who works on mindset, I'm always gonna look at that mindset, but then also we need to look at, like, where is my capacity? Where am I from a capacity standpoint? And what part of my capacity is being drained? And always, always, always start with emotional capacity because that is going to create impact on your nervous system. Your nervous system is going to put you in fight, flight, freeze, or please. And we are going to just boom, go into our defaults. Okay. I have notes, so I wanna just go over those. So let me go over my notes because y'all know that I will get off on a tangent and blah, blah, blah. So, I wanna talk about research that I pulled up. So, um, hold on, let me get to my notes. So, I went and looked back because I wanted to know if, what I was feeling was real or if it was just, creating an excuse for myself, right? And I feel like a lot of you think that too. Like when you're exhausted, you're like, am I really exhausted or am I just like allowing myself to be lazy? And I'll let you know that it is real. And it's more specific than I expected. So in one study, which came out in 2009, 16 people rode a bike until they physically could not ride anymore. And they did it twice. Once mentally fresh. So they did it twice. Once mentally fresh. Once mentally fresh, once after 90 minutes of a punishing thinking task. So let me say that again. So they rode this bike, right? The first time they rode it, mentally fresh, great. We love our lives, clear headed. The second time they rode it, they did a punishing thinking task. The people who were mentally fatigued quit the bike ride 15% sooner than those who had not, right? And the interesting part is that their heart rate was the same. Their muscle, it, like the, it, the ignition not ignition, what's the word? Like, the amount of muscle fatigue that they experienced was the same. Every physiological marker they measured were identical. Their bodies were fully and completely capable of the extra 15%. The one thing that changed was it felt harder. And that's that's it, right? It's the same body, right? Same physiological response. The only variable that was different was that taxing skill that they had to perform. Okay. Study number two is in 2019. And it said basically for 15 minutes, the people involved in the study went through heavy cognitive work. Then they said, okay, go exercise. And the people in the study were allowed to pick their own intensity and do the exercise that they wanted. There was a group of people who did the mentally fatigued work and then obviously a placebo group. And as we expect, the mentally fatigued group decided that they would do less of the exercise because remember, they get to go exercise, pick their own intensity, and pick how long they exercise. I missed that part of it. And they just naturally did less, right? And the people who did not have the mentally tasking exercise, obviously, they did more. And in this conclusion, the researchers explained that people deliberately adjusted their physical effort to cope with their mental fatigue, not even realizing it. And it was deliberate. Now, the interesting thing about this, and it's not in the research, is while they deliberately decreased their movement, it doesn't talk about if they recognized that that deliberate decrease in movement was awareness around the fact that they had done this mentally tasking activity. I'm gonna guess that it's not, right? They're just thinking, why do I feel so tired or why am I breathing so hard? I have an example of this with a new mom that is one of my clients. And when she came to me, she's like, Christina, I just want to be able to like breathe clearly again. I can't even walk her and hold her and walk her into the house without breathing heavily. And I said, "Well, you're postpartum, and obviously, I mean, that carrier and your baby, that's a good amount of weight." But then I asked about her labs, right? And um, she was really iron deficient after her pregnancy, but then also she's got a new baby. She's not sleeping well. Her and her partner are trying to figure it out, and she owns a dental practice. And so I said, maybe, just maybe, it's not. She had the excuse like I'm out of shape. That's literally the words that came out of her mouth. And I said, whoa, 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 whoa. We're dealing with a few things here. We're dealing with an iron deficiency because she had a lot of hemorrhaging after pregnancy that was never taken care of. And that alone will make you feel like shit. But then we also have the mental capacity, right? And for a lot of people who are in these situations, if you're ending your workout 15 minutes or 15% earlier, or you're choosing to do less of the movement, for a lot of you, you're going to think, what? What kind of thoughts would you have about yourself? Let's throw that in the chat. Uh, what kind of thoughts do you have about yourself when you're not able to follow through in the way you would on maybe a less taxing day? What kind of inner critic voice or inner critic messages are you receiving? What kind of things do you think about yourself? Because I think for a lot of people, they feel like I've failed. I have to do this exactly the way that it's scheduled, no matter what, right? No matter what's going on. So I want you guys to write that down. So I want to talk about the chain, of course. So a fried brain obviously makes things look harder than they are. So that's really important. Have you guys ever worked, like, past a point where you shouldn't have worked? I do this shit all the time, and I have to tell myself, "Stop working. You're not efficient anymore," right? So, your brain makes things look harder. The harder things look, right, the harder that they are to deal with, right? Um, what did I write here? Sorry. So, let me say that again. So, a fried brain makes things look harder. The harder things start to look, they look almost like a they're less attractive. That's the word I should have put here. They're less attractive, and the less attractive something looks, obviously, the more likely we are to decline it. So, one more time because my brain is fried. As you can see, this is a great example. Fried brain makes the activity look less attractive. The less attractive it looks, the more likely we're going to decline it. Got it? Good. Okay. So, what we want to let me go back to our chat. Okay, no chats yet. I want you guys to realize this because more than likely you're not, and not everyone, because like I know one of our listeners here, one of our listeners here has talked about the fact that or I'm sorry, not talked about. One of our listeners is her job is very, very physical. She owns a home cleaning company. She does like Airbnb clean outs and move outs and stuff like that. Like that's a very physically taxing job on top of working out, right? However, for a lot of people, their jobs aren't that physically taxing. And so, more than likely, when we're feeling that dread or that inability to make decisions or whatever it looks like, we've got to look at the mental energy. Okay. So, I asked, what do you feel, right, when you can't follow through in the way that you're supposed to? And we have discouraged and frustrated. It needs to get done, right? I'm just not strong enough to do what I'd say I do, right? And then we have a tired level of 3 out of 10. We got two of you in the no-no zone. Okay, give me 1 second. I just wanted to grab this. So, I wanted to just go over some of the symptoms that you guys can recognize in yourself when you are pushed in this no no zone. And I would say a 3 out of 10 is probably a place where we need to do some of the things we're going to talk about later. Okay. But low motivation, the I know what to do, I still don't want to do it. Decisions taking way longer than they should and avoiding them completely. Wanting to sleep or foggy even after you slept fine, like I talked about, snapping at small things or a shorter fuse emotionally, reaching for easy food, the phone, the couch, social media, whatever it takes no effort, right? Whatever's going to give us even the smallest bit of dopamine, right? That little punch of dopamine, we'd rather just do that. And we know it's there, we'll know it works, it's easy. Procrastinating on stuff that normally isn't a big deal and trouble focusing or rereading something 3 times, 10 times. I do that all of the time, all of the time. And so those are some of the symptoms I want you guys to look at. And again, when we're in that headspace, we also have to think about a few other things. We have to think about the fact that when you don't have the clarity and the energy to make decisions, you are going to like you so let's think of it this way. You wouldn't want to like, if your phone was on 4%, you're not gonna it's not gonna run properly. Like, when my computer gets to, like, the red, it just is slower, right? So, if we're not taking care of our mental energy and filling that cup back up or charging that phone back up, we cannot and will not follow through with the health habits that we're trying to change. It will not happen. And not because you don't want it, not because you're not motivated, not because you're not disciplined. Your brain literally can't. Literally can't. Okay. But what it can do, because it's easy and it's default, is talk down on you because it didn't happen. Because that's probably something that you're used to happening in situations like that. Like something is wrong with you. You're not disciplined enough. You're not this, you're not that. That's a default network that's easy to drive down, right? Grabbing the food is a default network that's easy to go down. Skipping the workout, default network, especially if these aren't things that we have built into our lives, right? And it's okay. I'm telling you guys this because I want you to have grace on yourself. There was a part of my brain today that's like, you need to get on the treadmill, you need to walk because I've been sitting all day. And I know if I walk on a treadmill, I I'm just it's not gonna be good for me physically. I walked a little bit, I did some chores around the house, and that's gonna be my movement for today, right? And luckily for me, I've worked on my default networks. I've really quieted them down, and my brain was able to say, "Okay." That's our choice. That's what we're gonna do. I have a lot of grace for myself. And so I want you guys to recognize even then, you know, I am how do I want to put this together? Recognize when we're at that place, right? Be able to realize that okay, I know what I was gonna say. There's no possible way, not possible way. My brain is at 4% battery. My job right now is not to worry about the meal or the workout or the thing that takes energy. Okay? So what I mean by that is the new habit I'm trying to create. New habits take a lot of mental energy. What I need to do right now is plug in the phone, which is me. I need to plug myself in, okay? So how do we do that? So coming back to the chat, we said the physically taxing stuff is so much easier for me than the mentally taxing. I'll take on all the chores, but the thought of sending an email is right, exactly. No, and I get that. It's it's also sometimes easier physically because it can be very like checklist, like, okay, done, 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 right? I did the workout, I got the chores done, I whatever. Whereas mentally, we don't really have that checklist of like complete, especially if you're not someone who has been connected to your body, who has this awareness that, oh wow, like I'm mentally taxed right now and it's affecting how I perform, right? And so that's why I wanted to bring this to your attention today. So what do we do? Like how do we lift ourselves back up, right? Number 1 is we want to take the decisions off the table when we're mentally taxed, okay? Not all of them, but most of them. And try to make as little decisions as you possibly have to. So, whatever that decision is that you made when your battery was full, that could be the meal that you planned on Sunday. Maybe it's just a decision. Okay, I'm going to put my gym clothes out and go there tomorrow. Maybe it's a default breakfast that you don't have to think about. These types of defaults that you can put into place, and I've talked about this a couple times on this live stream. These defaults can be your saving grace when you don't have the mental capacity. So, for example, I have default meals that I pull from. I rarely try to add anything to my meals that we make at this house. We make the same meals. There's 3 to 5 of them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that's it. I'm not trying to recreate the wheel. I'm not trying to have a 7-course meal. I know. I know that my shopping lists is always the same. I always have the same foods and I'm always can pull one of those meals together. And for you, when you're learning how to do this, right, you'll get to that place. It's one meal, right? It's one meal that maybe you can even eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? I love the Costco chicken chunk chicken tenders. I put those in the air fryer. I grab the Jimmy Dean's protein waffles or the Kodiak protein waffles. And in about 3 minutes, when that air fryer is almost done, I throw those in there. Chicken and waffles. You can eat that for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's so good. And it's high protein and high fiber, right? So making it easy. Or a lot of the things I talk about, and I feel like I'm repeating myself sometimes on live stream, but just having things in the freezer that like I said, you could throw in an air fryer or having like going to Sprouts and grabbing one of those ready-made meals and just having those in the fridge, maybe just one per week. If you don't eat it, throw it in the freezer, right? You can thaw it out on another night. Another thing that I love is the Whole Foods. At Whole Foods, they have the family meal where you can get a bunch of chicken breasts, sweet potato. You can actually choose. It's 3 things. It's one protein and 2 sides. It's $35 and it will feed you for a couple of days. So we take new decisions off the table. We create defaults in our lives that we can just easily go to. And I talked to one of you today. I said, it's okay to have to go through the fast food line. Let's just figure out what is the better option when we're going through fast food, because we also have to remember in order to uh, plug ourselves in, we have to fuel ourselves properly. And that can be really hard when you're mentally taxed, right? So I'm gonna like, actually, I don't have groceries in my home because I'm leaving for 10 days next week. My husband is out of town. So tonight I'm probably going to Chipotle. I know exactly what I eat at Chipotle. I know how much protein it is. It's a default. So we take decisions off the table. We just go to our default network. Do the important stuff early. So if your mental battery is drained by the end of the day, why are we trying to put the workout at the end of the day? Why are we trying to decide what we're going to eat for dinner at the end of the day? We've got to do the important stuff early. So front load things that need more willpower. So in that case, maybe I make a turkey sandwich. Maybe I go to Whole Foods and grab the meal deal. I get my workout done. I love future you, or I love current you and how much confidence she has at for 6 p.m. you, but you know the truth. If you know by the end of your workday, I know one of you on here is a caregiver to your daughter. If you know by the end of the day, that is when you're maxed out mentally, we're going to use what energy we have at the beginning of the day to make sure she's okay. Okay. So do the important stuff early, or at least create something, right? Meals, do the workout so that she's taken care of. And that's not just to say around nutrition and exercise, but make harder, send the email before lunch, right? Send the emails or look over the emails. If you know that looking at emails or reading shit, or, for me, it's like I always I always try to do like my social media planning at the end of the day, and my brain's like, nope, not that. So no, that starts at the beginning of the day because it's really taxing for me. So bring it at the beginning of the day. Okay. So of course, also one of the ways to charge the battery is to protect the tank, right? Protect the battery, I should say. We're not just allowing it to get to 4%, allowing it to get to 4%, right? Recovery is not only sleep. It's small intentional resets to refill your mental energy. Something like a walk without distraction, without your phone, right? One of the things I love is I have this nice little outdoor seating area, and I'll leave this room and sit outside in 110 heat for like 5 minutes because because it's a dry heat here. So you can sit outside for 5 minutes without like getting hot, and then you got to go inside. But 10 minutes of quiet, right? Even something like actually taking your lunch instead of eating at your desk. So, like moving away from the desk. These aren't indulgences, these aren't selfish. These are only 3. There's a lot of really great ways, and maybe let's do that in the chat. Let's talk about ways that you find help you to restore your mental energy. I love, um, just getting in my dog's face. Everything that is negative in my life, I will get in my dog's face and love on her. Um I will I literally do this thing where I leave the office, and the sun is shining, and I'll just stretch and I'll say, "Give me life." Like because the sun to me is really a battery, right? So, let's throw that in the chat there too. What is something that you guys like to do that does help stimulate or recharge you mentally? It could be prayer, it could be meditation, it could be breath work. It could go be talking stuff with your coworker in the stairway, or watching something funny on TikTok, as long as we're not, pulled totally into TikTok. What are things that help to rejuvenate you mentally? Mentally is the thing. Then the other thing, and we've kind of already touched on this, is lowering the bar on low days, right? So on a Friday, the goal isn't the perfect workout, it's not the perfect meal. It's a small action that keeps the identity of someone who works out, someone who eats healthy alive. Okay. Let me say that again. It's a small action that maintains the identity of whomever it is that you are already being and working towards, solidifying. So if my identity is I want to be someone who eats healthfully, and I want to be someone who moves her body daily, great. There's a lot of ways to be that person. So you could, like for me, I know my body needs rest today. And for me, instead of, I was gonna walk on the treadmill for probably like 45 minutes to an hour. Instead, I said, "You know what? I'm going whenever I'm doing any sort of chore in the house." So my house is like a big, like a almost like a U shape. So garage is over here. You guys can't see me. Over here. And then you go kitchen, hallway, den, and then my bedroom. So I was like, I'm just gonna take the long way because I can actually go through my bedroom to get to the garage, but I was not gonna do that. I was like, if I need anything from the kitchen, I'm gonna take the long way. And that's how I'm getting in movement today. So lower the bar, lower the bar. This isn't failure, right? It's a win. I'm still someone who gets in daily movement. And even on my low days, I find a way to add in extra movement, even if it's a couple thousand extra steps. Okay. And then, of course, you're going to hear this at least once a week from me is instead of getting critical, we get curious, right? When you skip the workout or you start beating yourself up, right? That costs you even more energy, babes. When you start beating yourself up, that drains you further. That drains your emotional energy. So instead, we're going to get curious, right? Instead of what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Ask, where is my tank at today? Right? Ask, you know, what is one thing that I can do right now to feel a little bit more energized today? Really get curious to why your body's experiencing what it's experiencing. And for some of you, it's obvious. It's things that, I know I talked to you guys that one of our members is a caregiver to her daughter. And what I was explaining today was, some of the symptoms that her daughter experiences are consistently happening on a daily basis, but the brain says, I'm just waiting for it to happen. And anxiety is going to kind of like waiting for the next one. And I said, I think even this reframe of instead of creating this like, and I'm trying to be very sensitive to the subject, but the fear around when the next time it's going to happen, have the acceptance that it will happen again and I can handle it, right? I can handle it. Because what that does is it removes the anxiety, right? And that critical anxiety can be critical too, right? But it's taxing. It's taxing on top of already a taxing position as a caregiver. So when we can say, I know this is going to happen again and I will handle it to the best of my ability. We it doesn't say that it's not scary when it happens. It doesn't say that it's, an ideal like it doesn't minimize the situation, but what it does is it takes the anxiety out of it. And that will just give you a little bit more mental energy and a little confidence, right? Cuz you can do that. So, let's see here. Chat. Oh, here we go. It's so weird. Listening to the opera. Oh my gosh. Listen, since Mark has been gone, I go to sleep to like wave crashing on YouTube. Oh, it's my favorite thing. I got to do opera. And sometimes taking a podcast break and listening to a fiction book. That's great. Anything that's going to stimulate you, like a story, kind of get you excited about something that's totally different. That's a great actual example, Amber, of like getting your mind on something that's has nothing to do with what's going on right now. That can be really invigorating too. I dance my whole life and sometimes I'll like just watch some of the college dance on YouTube or something for, 10 minutes or so and I just get so excited and it's like I don't know, I just get energy from stuff like that too. That's a great example of just doing something that has nothing to do with work or stress or whatever is going on, but also, minimizing it. So we're not getting, drawn into it. That was great. Awesome. All right. So the next time you can't get yourself to follow through before you tell yourself, I'm lazy, I'm failing again, check your battery and not just your physical battery, your emotional battery. You actually might not be out of willpower, you're just mentally tapped out, and that is fixable. We can fix that once you actually see it. Okay. Now, I was talking to a client, yeah, last week, and I told her, was it last week? I don't know. It was earlier this week. And I said, sometimes because I'm the mindset and the exercise coach, I do allow for a lot of grace. Be real with yourself, right? If this becomes a pattern, then obviously we've got to look at it. If you're constantly like skipping the workout because you're like, I'm just mentally taxed. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about realizing it and then doing something about it. So then you can follow through with the habits you have here. Right. So good, good, good. Uh, Other than that, just a reminder the next 2 Thursdays, I will be on vacation and I will not be live streaming. Next Thursday, I will be in London. I'm so excited. I've never been to Europe and I'm excited with everything that my husband and I have gone through. His family is very much on board with us going on this trip because his parents actually traveled the world. They've seen everything. And so, his mom said, go on the trip, Mark. So we're going on the trip. So we will not have a live stream for the next 2 weeks for clients. You're going to have this whole setup. We're going to have your weekly review like you normally do. However, it's going to be a 4-question review, and you're going to I'm going to let you guys know this in the app. You're going to share it in the community forum so everyone can support each other. We're also going to be playing another summer bingo. We usually play bingo on Thanksgiving. We're going to play bingo, which is just different little like health things that you can do. And I'll send you guys. We're going to get all of the info on that, and then I'm also going to be providing you guys with just links to like articles and YouTubes and stuff so that you can continue to educate yourself and not feel like because I'm away, you don't have support. It's a supportive community. And I'm just trying, again, back to energy. It's like leaving, like the way I feel about leaving the business for 10 days is how I feel about leaving my dogs for 10 days. I'm like, ah. So, one last thing we've got being out in nature, looking at nature. If I can't get outside, conscious breath. Yes, absolutely. Being out in nature to me makes me feel so connected, like spiritually connected. So it's even like it's like if you had I wish we had these, like a charger for your phone that just like supercharged it. That's how I feel in nature for sure. So awesome. I hope you guys found this helpful. I just thought, with sometimes, I have my stuff that I can share with you and it doesn't always have to be client facing, which sometimes it is. But I hope you found this helpful. And over the next 2 weeks, we will still have episodes of the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. We have Dr. Sheridan James on Monday. She's a concierge health professional, or a concierge internal medicine doctor. And we just had a really great conversation about the traditional field of medicine and how this concierge level of um, providers is this new kind of wave and how it gives their patients an individualized and like not only individualized but really relationship based um doctor client patient relationship. It's really interesting. And then the following week after that, I really actually, Amber, this one's for you, is I'm talking about body the mental struggles of a recomp or in a reverse diet. And so that will be the following week. I've already recorded those. So they're done. Awesome. Thank you guys. I love you all. Oh wait, we got one more on a Friday. If I can do something at 60% of normal, then I'll do 60%. And that's 100%. Thank you for saying that. So I'm going to leave with that. If you only have 20% to give and you give yourself 20%, you've given yourself 100%. I'm going to leave on that note. Love you guys. And we'll see you August 7th. Hold on. Let me look. August 6th. That will be the next time I see you. Mwah. Bye-bye.